Hey guys, this is Allison from Allylat Creations. How are you? Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. If you get anything from my work, a connected dot, a mind-blown moment, a mushroom cloud moment, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work, and all the links will be in the description box below. And I want to thank you for everybody who has supported me and continues to support me. Just a quick update. I got a lawnmower today. I did a lot of yard work. And I have another flood. I thought my refrigerator broke. Oh, no. I have a flood coming from something else. Fun times. Just clean that up. Anywho. Spring is here. My birthday's on Sunday. I don't know if I'll be on doing a video. I might. With my birthday crown. I wear crowns. I'm not lying. Yeah. Just another day turning 40. Fun. So today we're going to tackle The Secret Doctrine by Blavatsky. And this is really juicy. I left the last video off where I did because this is like ties into everything else that I've been reading. And it is long overdue. As you see, I'm picking up the frequency of my videos. So I'm very much trying to get things done. And the stack of papers that are right there. Let's just say that I did not know, because I don't know, lack of ignorance, lack of knowing, that when you move states and you get a tax return from where I was in New York, that you have to be certified in another state to file them. Because I bought and sold a house within the same year, although I don't believe taxes are legal, they're not. I just don't want any problems, and I want to cut ties with the system. So I had a frenzy of scanning the other day, almost 40 documents, to my accountant back, thankfully, graciously, took everything back home in New York. Just, because snail mail from New York is still catching up to Indiana. I can't. I'm done. This should be very juicy. Primordial substance and divine thought. And I might have to readjust my chair just a smidgen. Quote, as it would seem irrational to affirm that we already know all existing causes, permission must be given to assume, if need be, an entirely new agent. Assuming what is not strictly accurate as yet, that the undulatory hypothesis accounts for all the facts, we are called to decide whether the existence of an undulating ether is thereby proved. We cannot possibly affirm that no other supposition will explain the facts. Newton's corpuscular, I'm not going to get that out right, guys, hypothesis is admitted to have broken down on interference, and there is, at the present day, no rival. Still, it is extremely desirable in all such hypotheses to find some collateral confirmation, some evidence, a loon of supposed ether. Some hypotheses consist of assumptions as to the minute structure and operations of bodies. From the nature of the case, the assumptions can never be proved by direct means. Their only merit is their suitability to express the pleroma. They are representative fictions. End quote. Logic by Alexander Bain. I'm going to put a pause 2 seconds here. Anybody who is, you don't need to know the math or really to understand the equations, but if you could conceptualize quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement, all of that, all of those subsections of quantum and physics. I can't imagine what this book would look like if it was written today. If Madame Blavatsky was incarnated in another vehicle, and so by chance this vehicle consciousness that inhabits her fractal of a soul would be writing the new Secret Doctrine, implementing all the new physics and science, not the crazy shit, but even if it's theoretical, okay, a lot of her work would be validated, number one, but two, holy crap. The conundrum bowl would be the most paradoxical thing. Your mind would explode. If there's anybody out there that knows that they are the reincarnation with the fractal of Madame Blavatsky, please channel that energy from her, because holy shit, we need another book. Because it would blow minds. Because this is already, amazing. But just think, if she was alive, if her incarnated body was here, the nuggets of wisdom that we could be getting. Sorry, just off on a tangent, but needed to be said. Ether, this hypothetical Proteus, on one of the representative fictions of modern science, which nevertheless was so accepted, is one of the lower principles of what we call primordial substance, akasha in Sanskrit. One of the dreams of old, and which has now, sorry guys, I can't see, become again the dream of modern science. It is the greatest, just as it is the boldest, of the surviving speculations of ancient philosophers. For the occultists, however, both ether and the primordial substance are a reality. To put it plainly, ether is the astral light and the primordial substance is akasha, the upati of divine thought. In modern language, the latter would be better named cosmic ideation spirit, the former cosmic substance matter. These, the alpha and the omega of being, are but the two facets of one absolute existence. The latter was never addressed or even mentioned by any name in antiquity, except allegorically. In the oldest Aryan race, the Hindu, the worship of the intellectual classes never consisted, as with the Greeks, in a fervent adoration of marvelous form and art, which was later to be anthropomorphized. But while the Greek philosopher adorned form, and the Hindu sage alone perceived the true relation of earthly beauty and eternal truth, the uneducated of every nation understood neither at any time. They do not understand it even now. The evolution of the God idea proceeds apace with man's own intellectual evolution, so true is that the noblest idea to which the religious spirit of one age can soar will appear but a gross caricature to the philosophic mind in a succeeding epoch. The philosophers themselves had to be initiated into the perceptive mysteries before they could grasp the correct idea of the ancients in relation to this metaphysical subject. Otherwise, outside such initiation for every thinker, there will be a thus far shalt thou go and no farther, mapped out by his intellectual capacity as clearly and as unmistakably as there is for the progress of any nation or race in its cycle by the law of karma. Outside of initiation, the ideals of contemporary religious thought must always have their wings clipped and remain unable to soar higher. For idealistic as well as realistic thinkers, and even free thinkers, are but the outcome and the natural product of their respective environment and periods. Think about where we all are right now. The ideals of both are only the necessary result of their temperaments, and the outcome of that phase of intellectual progress is to which a nation in its collectivity has obtained. Hence, as already remarked, the highest flights of modern Western metaphysics have fallen far short of the truth. Much of current agnostic speculation on the existence of the first cause is little better than veiled materialism, the terminology alone being different. Even so, a great thinker as Mr. Herbert Spencer speaks of the unknowable, occasionally in terms that demonstrate the lethal influence of materialistic thought, which, like the deadly Siruko, not good at those names, has withered and blighted all current ontological speculation. Ontological mathematics. From the early ages of the fourth race, when spirit alone was worshipped and the mystery was made manifest, down to the last palmy days of Greek art at the dawn of Christianity, the Hellenes alone had dared to raise publicly on an altar to the unknown God. Whoever St. Paul may have had in his profound mind when declaring to the Athenians that this unknown, ignorantly worshipped by them, was the true God announced by himself, that deity was not Jehovah. Sorry, guys. Nor was he the maker of the world and all things, for it is not the God of Israel, but the unknown of the ancient and modern pantheists, that dwelleth not in temples made with hands. Divine thought cannot be defined or its meaning explained except by the numberless manifestations of cosmic substance, in which the former is sensed spiritually by those who can do so. To say this after having defined it as the unknown deity, abstract, impersonal, sexless, which must be placed at the root of every cosmogony, and its subsequent evolution, is equivalent to saying nothing at all. It is like attempting a transcendental equation of conditions for the true values of a set, having the hand for deducing them only a number of unknown quantities. Its place is found in the old primitive symbolic charts, in which, as shown in the text, it is represented by a boundless darkness, on the ground of which appears the first central point in white, thus symbolizing co-evolved and co-eternal spirit matter, making the appearance in the phenomenal world before its first differentiation. When the one becomes two, it may then be referred to as spirit and matter. To spirit is referable every manifestation of consciousness, reflected or direct, and of unconscious purposeness, to adopt a modern expression used in Western philosophy, so-called, as evidence in the vital principle in nature's submission to the majestic sequence of immutable law. Matter must be regarded as objectively, in its purest abstraction, the self-existing basis whose sympatary monophoratic differentiations constitute the objective reality underlying the phenomena of each phase of conscious existence. During the period of universal pralaya, cosmic ideation is not existent, and the variously differentiated states of cosmic substance are resolved back again into the primary state of abstract potential objectivity. That's a lot. Manvaratic impulse commences with the reawakening of cosmic ideation, the universal mind, concurrently with and parallel to the primary emergence of cosmic substance, the latter being the manavatric vehicle of the former, from its undifferentiated pralaic state. Then absolute wisdom mirrors itself in its ideation, which by a transcendental process superior to and incomprehensible by human consciousness results in cosmic energy, bohat. Thrilling through the bosom of inert substance, bohat impels it to activity and guides its primary differentiations on all the 7 planes of cosmic consciousness. There are thus 7 prototypes, protols, looks like types from here. Sorry, guys, I definitely need glasses. As they are now called, while our Aryan antiquity called them the 7 parati, or natures, serving severally as the relatively homogeneous basis, which in the course of the increasing heterogeneity in the evolution of the universe, differentiate into the marvelous complexity presented by phenomena on the planes of perception. The term relativity is used designedly because the very existence of such a process resulting in the primary segregations of undifferentiated cosmic substance into its sympatary basis of evolution compels us to regard the protol of each plane as only a immediate phase assumed by substance in its passage from abstract into full objectivity. Cosmic ideation is said to be non-existent during pralaic periods for the simple reason that there is no one and nothing to perceive its effects. There can be no manifestation of consciousness, semi-consciousness, or even unconscious holy shit. I can't get that word out. Sorry. It's like purposeness, but it's not. I'm just gonna leave it there. Sometimes this book drives me banana nuts because I can't project a lot of these words. So I do apologize. Very frustrating. Except through the vehicle of matter, that is to say, on this plane, wherein human consciousness in its normal state cannot soar beyond what it is known as transcendental metaphysics. It is only through some molecular aggregation or fabric that spirit wells up in a stream of individual or subconscious subjectivity. And as matter existing apart from perception is the mere abstraction, both of these aspects of the absolute cosmic substance and cosmic ideation are mutually interdependent. In strict accuracy, to avoid confusion and misconception, the term matter ought to be applied to the aggregate of objects of possible perception, and substance to noumena, for inasmuch as the phenomena of our plane are the creation of the perceiving ego, the modifications of its own subjectivity, all the states of matter representing the aggregate of perceived objects can have but a relative and purely phenomenal existence for the children of our plane. As a modern idealist would say, the cooperation of subject and object results in a sense, object, or phenomenon. But this does not necessarily lead to the conclusion that there is on the same plane, that the cooperation of the two on the planes of their sepentary differentiations results in a sepentary aggregate of phenomena, which are likewise non-existent per se, though concrete realities for the entities of whose experience they form a part, in the same manner as the rocks and rivers around us are real from the standpoint of a physicist, though unreal illusions of sense from that of the metaphysician. It would be an error to say or even conceive each of thing from the standpoint of the highest metaphysics. The whole universe, God's included, is an illusion, but the illusion of him who is in himself an illusion differs on every plane of consciousness. And we have no more right to dogmatize about the possible nature of the perceived faculties of an ego on, say, the sixth plane than we have to identify our perceptions with or make them a standard for those of an ant in its mode of consciousness. The pure object apart from the consciousness is unknown to us. While living on the plane of our three-dimensional world, as we know only the mental states, it excites in the perceiving ego. And so long as the contrast of subject and object endures, to wit, as long as we enjoy our five senses and no more, and do not know how to divorce our all-perceiving ego, the higher self, from the thraldom of these senses, so long will it be impossible for the personal ego to break through the barrier which separates it from knowledge of things in themselves or substance. Sounds like Schopenhauer. The ego, progressing in our arc of ascending subjectivity, must exhaust the experience of every plane, but not till the unit is merged in the all, whether on this or any other plane. Subject and object alike vanish in the absolute negation of the nirvanic state. Negation again only from our plane is scaled, that the peak of omniscience, the knowledge of things in themselves, and the solution of the yet more awful riddle approach, before which even the highest Dayan Kohen must bow in silence and ignorance, the unspeakable mystery of that which is called the Vedatins, the Para-Brahman. Therefore, such being the case, all those who sought to give a name to the incognizable principle have simply degraded it. Even to speak of the cosmic ideation, save in its phenomenal aspect, is like trying to bottle up primordial chaos, or to put a printed label on eternity. What then is the primordial substance, the mysterious object of which alchemy was ever talking, and which became the subject of philosophical speculation in every age? What can it be finally in its phenomenal pre-differentiation? Even that is all in manifestation in nature, nothing into our senses. Even that is all in manifested nature and nothing in our senses. It is mentioned under various names in every cosmogony, referred to in every philosophy, and shown to be, to this day, the ever-grasp, eluding Proteus in nature. We touch and do not feel it. We look at it without seeing it. We breathe it and do not perceive it. We hear and smell it without the smallest cognition that it is there. For it is in every molecule of that which in our illusion and ignorance we regard matter in any of its states, or conceive as a feeling, a thought, or an emotion. In short, it is the upadi, or vehicle of every possible phenomenon, whether physical, mental, or psychic. in the opening sentence of Genesis, as in the Chaldean cosmology, in the Puranas of India, and in the Book of the Dead in Egypt. It opens everywhere the cycle of manifestation. It is termed chaos, and the face of the waters incubated by the spirit proceeding from the unknown, under whatever name. The authors of the sacred scriptures in India go deeper in the origin of things evolved that Thales or Job, for they say, from intelligence called Marat in the Puranas, associated with ignorance. Iswar as personal deity, attended by its projective power, in which the quality of dullness, I don't know if that tumas, insensibly predominates, proceeds ether, from ether air, from air heat, from heat water, from water earth, with everything on it. From this, from the same self, was ether produced, says the Veda. It becomes thus evident that it is not this ether sprung up at the fourth, removed from the emanation of intelligence associated with ignorance, which is the high principle, the Delphic entity worshipped by the Greeks and Latins under the name of Pater Opium's ether. Sorry, just butchered Latin. And the innumerable subdivisions and differences made by the ancients between the powers of ether collectively from the outward fringe of effects with which our science is so familiar, up to the imponderable substance once emitted as the ether of space, now about to be rejected, has been ever a vexing riddle for every branch of knowledge. The mythologists and symbologists of our day, confused by this incomprehensible glorification on that one hand and degradation on the other of the same deified entity, and in the same religious systems, are often driven to the most ludicrous mistakes. The church, firm as a rock in each, and all of her early errors of interpretation, has made of ether the abode of her satanic legions. The whole hierarchy of the fallen angels is there. The cosmocrators, or the world bearers, according to Bosant, Mundi. Gosh, I can't stand this like italic font because I can't read it. All right, I'm going to just say the world holders, world dominations, or rather dominators, or curved, who thus make of the stars and celestial orbs their coarse devils. Fun times. The difference made between the 7 states of ether, itself one of the 7 cosmic principles, while the ether of the ancients is universal fire, may be seen in the injunctions by Zoroaster and Viscellus, respectively. The former said, consult it only when it is without form or figure, which there's another term there, I am not pronouncing that, which means without flames or burning coals. When it has a form, heed it not, teachers Facilius, but when it is formless, obey it, for it is then sacred fire, and all it will reveal shall be true. This proves that ether itself, an aspect of Akasha, has in its turn several aspects or principles. All the ancient nations defied ether in the imponderable aspect and potency. Virgil calls Jupiter, another Latin term, the great ether. The Hindus have placed it among their deities under the name of Akasha, the synthesis of ether. And the author of Homo American, System of Philosophy, Angoras, another long name, firmly believe that the spiritual prototypes of all things, as well as their elements, were to be found in the boundless ether, where they were generated, whence they evolved, and whither they return in occult teaching. It thus becomes clear that it is from ether, in its highest synthetic aspect, once anthropomorphized, that sprung the first idea of personal creative deity. With the philosophical Hindus, the elements are tamas, unenlightened by intellect, which they obscure. We have now to exhaust the question of the mystical meaning of the primordial chaos and of the root principle, and show how they were connected in the ancient philosophies with Akasha, wrongly translated ether, and also with Maya, illusion, of which Ishwara is the male aspect. We shall speak further on of the intellect principle, or rather of the invisible, immaterial properties and the visible, and the material elements that sprung from the primordial chaos. For what is the primordial chaos but ether? It is as in Isis unveiled, not the modern ether, not such as it is recognized now, but such as it was known to the ancient philosophers long before the time of Moses. But ether, with all its mysterious and occult properties, containing in itself the germs of the universal creation. Upper ether, or Akasha, is the celestial virgin and mother of everything existing, form and being, from whose bosom, and soon as incubated by the divine spirit, are called into existence, matter and life, force and action. Ether is the adit of the Hindus, and it is Akasha. Electricity, magnetism, heat, light, and chemical action are so little understood even now. The fresh facts are constantly widening the range of our knowledge. Who knows where ends the power of this protein giant ether, or whence its mysterious origin? Who, we mean, that denies the spirit that works in and evolves out of its visible form. It will be easy to talk to. I really do need glasses, and this is sad. It will be an easy task to show that the cosmonical legends all over the world are based on knowledge by the ancients of those sciences, which have allied themselves in our days in support of the doctrine of evolution, and that further research may demonstrate that those ancients were far better acquainted with the fact of evolution itself, embracing both its physical and spiritual aspects, than we are now. With the old philosophers, evolution was universal theorem, a doctrine embracing the whole and established principle, while our modern evolutionists are enabled to present us merely with speculative theoretics, with particular, if not wholly, negative theorems. It is idle for the representatives of our modern wisdom to close the debate and pretend that the question is settled, merely because the obscure phraseology of the Mosaic for a latter account clashes with the definite extension. This book kills me. Of exact science. Isis Unveiled. I love this book, don't get me wrong, but verbalizing that out loud, holy shitballs. I just got attacked by my co-host. I was going to get the cuteness on film, but I thought otherwise. If one turns to the laws or ordinances of Manu, one finds the prototype of all these ideas, mostly lost to the Western world in their original form, disfigured by later interpolation and additions. They have nevertheless preserved quite enough of their ancient spirit to show in its character. Removing the darkness, the self-existent Lord, becoming manifest and wishing to produce beings from his essence, created in the beginning water alone, in that he cast seed that became a golden egg. Whence this self-existent Lord, is it called this, and is spoken of as darkness, imperceivable, without definite qualities, undiscoverable, as if wholly in sleep. Having dwelt in that egg for a whole divine year, he, who is called the world Brahma, splits the egg in two, and from the upper portion he forms the heaven, from the lower earth, and from the middle the sky, and the perpetual place of waters. But there is directly following these verses something more important for us, as it collaborates entirely our esoteric teachings. From the verse 14 to 636, evolution is given the order described in the esoteric philosophy. This cannot be easily gainsaid. Even, I'm going to butcher that name, some of Varaswamin, the author of the commentary, the Menu Basa, whose date, according to the Western Orientalists, is 1000 AD, helps us with his remarks to the Euclidean. This book makes me feel like a moron. Elucidation of truth. This is how my mind doesn't like comprehend and compute sometimes. Sorry, guys. It's frustrating. He showed himself either unwilling to give out more because he knew that truth, which has to be kept from the profane, or else he was really puzzled. Still, what he does not give out makes the cemetery principle in man and nature plain enough. Let us begin with chapter 1. Still have Morgan here on me. Ordinances are laws after the self-existent Lord, the unmanifesting logos of the unknown. Darkness becomes manifest in the golden egg. It is from this egg, from that which is the undiscrete, undifferentiated cause, eternal, which is and is not, from its issued with the male who is called in the world Brahma. Here we find, as in genuine philosophical systems, even the egg or the circle or zero, balanced infinity referred to as it, and Brahma, the first unit, only referred to as the male god, the fructifying principle. It is the 0 or 10, the decade. On the plane of the cemetery or our world only, it is called Brahma. On that of the unified decade, in the realm of reality, this male Brahma is an illusion. From self, he created mind, which is and is not, and from mind, egoism, self-consciousness, the ruler, the Lord. I had to fix my teeth there. The mind is manas. Medhatathi, I don't know if I got that name right. The commentator justly observes here that is the reverse of this and shows already interpolation and rearranging, for it is manas that springs from akamra, or universe, self-consciousness, as manas in the microcosm springs from Mahat or Maha Buddha, Buddha in man. For the manas is dual, and it's shown and translated by Colebrook, is serving both for sense and action, is an organ by affinity, being cognate with the rest. The rest means here that manas are our fifth principle, the fifth, because the body was named the first, which is the reverse or true philosophical order, is in affinity both with Atma Buddha and with the lower four principles. Hence our teaching, namely that manas follows Atma Buddha to devotion, and that the lower dregs, the residue of manas, remains with Kama Rupa in limbus, or Kama Loka, the abode of the shells. Such is the meaning of manas, which is and is not. Midhathati, translated as the one consciousness of the I or ego, not ruler, as the Orientalists do. Thus they translate verse 16, he also, having made the subtle parts of both six, the great self and the five organs of sense, of unmeasured brightness, to enter into the elements of self, created all beings. When according to Menarathi, I'm going to butcher that all day, it ought to read matra cheat instead of I'm not getting that out, and thus be made to say, sorry guys, I'm not going to disrespect and butcher the Hindu language. He, having pervaded the subtle parts of those six of unmeasured brightness by elements of self, created all beings. This later reading must be the correct one, since he, the self, is what we call Atma, and thus constitutes the seventh principle, the synthesis of the six. Such is also the opinion of the editor of Maharadharma Shastra, who seems to have intuitively entered far deeper into the spirit of the philosophy than the translator of the ordinances of Manu, the later Dr. Brunel, for he hesitates a little between the text of Koluka and the commentaries of Menharathi, rejecting the Tanmatra, or subtle elements, and the, oh my gosh, that one word I'm not projecting, of Koluka. He says, applying the principles of the cosmic self, the six appear rather to be the manas plus the five principles of ether, air, fire, water, earth, having united five portions of the six with the spiritual element, the seventh. He thus created all existing things. That long word I can't pronounce is therefore the spiritual atom, as opposed to the elementary, not reflective elements of himself. Thus he corrects the translation of verse 17 as the subtle elements of bodily forms of the one depend on the six, so that wise call his form Sharia, and he says that elements means here portions or parts or principles, which reading is borne out by verse 19, which says, 19, the non-eternal universe arises then from the eternal by means of the subtle elements of forms of those seven very glorious principles. Commenting upon which, according to Mithrahi, Mithadri, the editor remarks that the five elements plus mind, manas, and self-consciousness are meant subtle elements, as before, meaning five portions of form or principles. For verse 20 shows it was saying the 5 elements or 5 portions of form, rupa, plus manas, and self-consciousness, that they all constitute the 7 prusha or principles called the Puranas, the 7 Praktis. Moreover, these 5 elements or 5 portions are spoken of in verse 27 as those which are called the atomic destructible portions, therefore distinct from the atoms of the Nyaya. I sound ridiculous and I do apologize. Very, very frustrating today. But I gotta get done. This created Brahma, issuing from the mundane or golden egg, unites in himself both the male and the female principles. He is, in short, the same as all the creative proto-logi of Brahma. However, it could not be said of Dionysos, Greek, or lunar Jehovah, Bashius, truly with David dancing nude before his symbol in the ark, because no Lysinctus Dionysia were ever established in his name and honor. All such public worship was exoteric, and the great universal symbols were distorted universally as those of Krishna are now by the longer not saying it of Bombay, the followers of the infinite God. But are these popular gods the true deity? Are they the apex synthesis of the sevenfold creation, man included? Never. Each and all are one of the rungs of the cemetery ladder of divine consciousness, pagan as Christian. For Aeon Soph also is said to manifest through the 7 letters of Jehovah's name, who, having usurped the place of the unknown limitless, was given by his devotees his 7 angels of presence, his 7 principles. Yet they are mentioned in almost every school. In the pure Sankhya philosophy, Mahat Alkura, and the 5 Tanmatras are called the 7 Praktis or natures, and they are accounted from Mahabhat Buddha or Mahat down the earth. Nevertheless, however, disfigured for rabbinical purposes in the original Elohistic version by Ezra, however repulsive at the time, even the esoteric meaning in the Hebrew scrolls, which is far more so than its outward veil or cloaking may be, once the Jehovistic portions are eliminated, the Mosaic books are found full of purely occult and priceless knowledge, especially in the first 6 chapters. Read by the aid of the Kabbalah, one finds a matchless temple of occult truths, a well of deeply concealed beauty hidden under the structure, the visual architecture of which is apparently some symmetry notwithstanding, is unable to stand the criticism of cold reason, or to reveal its age, for it belongs to all the ages. There is more wisdom concealed under the esoteric fables of Puranas and the Bible than in exoteric facts and science in the literature of the world, and more occult true science than there is of the exact knowledge in all the academies. Or in plainer and stronger language, there is as much esoteric wisdom in some portions of the exoteric Puranas and Pentateuch, as era of nonsense and of design, childish fancy in it, when read only in the dead letter, murderous interpretations of great dogmatic religions, and especially sects. Let anyone read the first verse of chapter 1 of Genesis, and reflecting upon them, their God commands to another God who does his bidding. Even the cautious English Protestant translation of James, the first authorized edition. In the beginning, the Hebrew language had no word to express the idea of eternity. God fashions the heaven and the earth, and the latter is without form and void, while the former is no heaven in fact, but the deep chaos with darkness upon its face. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, or the great deep of infinite space. And this Spirit is Narayana, or Vishnu. And the God said, let there be a firmament. And God, the second, obeyed and made the firmament. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. Now the latter does not mean light at all, but the Kabbalah and the androgyny, Adam Kadmon, or Sifra, spiritual light. For they are one, or according to the Chaldean book of Numbers, the secondary angels, the first being the Elohim, who are the aggregate of that fashioning God, for to whom those words of command address. And who is it who commands? That which commands is the eternal law, and he who obeys the Elohim, the known entity acting in and with X, or the coefficient of an unknown quantity, the forces of the one force. All this is occultism, and is found in the archaic stanzas. It is perfectly immaterial whether we call these forces the Dihan Kohans or the Orphim, as St. John does. The one universal light, which to man is darkness, is ever existent, says the Chaldean Book of Numbers. From it proceeds periodically the energy which is reflected in the deep or chaos, the storehouse of future worlds, and once awakened stirs up and fructifies the latent forces, which are the ever-present eternal potentialities in it. Then awake anew the Brahmas and Buddhas, the co-eternal forces, and the new universe springs into being. In the Sefer Yitzraya, the Kabbalistic book of creation, the author has evidently repeated the words of Menu. In it, the divine substance is represented as having alone existed from the eternity, boundless and absolute, and as having emitted from itself the spirit. One is the spirit of the living God, blessed be its name, which liveth forever. Voice, spirit, and word, this is the Holy Spirit. And this is the Kabbalistic abstract Trinity, so unceremoniously anthropomorphized by the Christian fathers. From this triple one emanated the whole cosmos. From the one emanated number two, or air, the father, the creative element, and the number three, water, the mother, proceeded from air, ether, or fire, completes the mystic four, the Araba. When the concealed of the concealed wanted to reveal himself, he first made a point, primordial point, or the first Sephiroth, air, or Holy Ghost, shaped into a sacred form, the 10th Sephiroth, or the heavenly man, and covered it with the rich and splendid garment that is the world. That's some deep shit. He maketh the wind his messengers, flaming fire his servants, says the Jizaya, showing the cosmical character of the later something elements, and that the spirit permeates every atom in cosmos. This primordial substance is called by some chaos. Plato and the Pythagoreans named it the soul of the world after it had been impregnated by the spirit of that which broods over the primeval waters or chaos. It is by being reflected in it, say the Kabbalists, that the brooding principle created the phantasmagora, or a visible, I got that word wrong. I'm done. Of a visible manifested universe, chaos before ether after the reflection. It is still the deity that pervades all space and things. It is the invisible, improbable spirit of things and the invisible, but too tangible fluid that radiates from the fingers of healthy magnetizer. For it is vital electricity, life itself, cold in derision from the Marquise de Merville, the Nubulus Almighty. It is termed from the Gurgis and occultists to this day the living fire, and there is not a Hindu who practices at dawn a certain kind of meditation, but knows its effects. It is the spirit of light, the Magnus, are truly expressed by its opponent. Magus and Magnes are two branches growing from the same trunk and shooting forth the same resultants. And in this appellation of living fire, we may also discover the meaning of the puzzling sentence in the Zen Avesta, saying that there is a fire that gives knowledge of the future. Science and amiable speech develops an extraordinary eloquence in the Sibyl, the sensitive, and even some orators. This fire is spoken of all in the Hindu books, as also the Kabbalistic works. The Zohar explains it as the white hidden fire in the Risha Kriva, the white head, whose will causes the fiery fluid to flow in 370 currents in every direction of the universe. It is the identica with the serpent that runs with 370 leaps of the Sifra Denziota, which when the perfect man, the Metatron, is raised, when the divine man indwells in the animal man, in the serpent becomes three spirits, that is to say, it's Atma, Buddha, Manas, in our Theosophical phraseology, the many meanings of the war in heaven. Spirit, then, or cosmic ideation and cosmic substance, one whose principles in ether are one and include the elements in the sense St. Paul attaches to them. These elements are the veiled synthesis standing for the Dihan Kohan's Divas Sephiroth. Another word I can't pronounce. Archangels, etc. The ether of science, the Alus or Borosas, or the protyle of chemistry, constitutes, so to speak, the rude material relativity out of which the above named builders, following the plan traced out for them eternally in the divine thought, fashion the system in the cosmos. They are the myths, we are told, no more than ether and the atoms, we answer. The two later are absolute necessities of physical science. The builders of the absolute, a necessity of metaphysics. We are twitted with, "You never saw them." We asked the materialists, "Have you ever seen ether or your atoms or again your force?" Moreover, one of the greatest Western evolutionists of the modern day, the adjunct of Darwin, Mr. A.R. Wallace, when discussing the inadequacy of natural selection alone to account for the physical form of man, admits the guiding action of the higher intelligence as a necessary part of the great laws which govern the material universe. These higher intelligences are the Daihan Kohans of the occultists. Indeed, there are few myths in any religious systems worthy of the name, but have historical as well as scientific foundation. Myths, justly observes Poeck, who are now proved the fables just in proportion as we misunderstand them. Truths to proportion as they were once understood. The one prevailing most distinct idea found in all ancient teaching, with reference to cosmic evolution and the first creation of our globe, with all its products, organic and inorganic, strange word for an occultist to use, is that the whole cosmos has sprung from the divine thought. This thought impregnates matter, which is co-eternal with the one reality, and all that lives and breathes evolves from the emanations of the one immutable Parabrahman Multiprakti, the eternal one root. The former of these is, so to say, the aspect of the central point turned inward into regions quite inaccessible to human intellect and is absolute abstraction, whereas in its aspects, Multiprakti, the eternal root of all, it gives one some hazy comprehension, at least, of the mystery of being. I have to readjust, guys. I do apologize. I'm like red in the face. Quote, therefore, it was taught in the inner temples that the visible universe of spirit and matter is but the concrete image of the ideal abstraction. It was built on the model of the first divine idea. Thus, our universe existed from eternity in a latent state. The soul animating this purely spiritual universe is the central sun, the highest deity itself. It was not the one who built the concrete form of the idea, but the first begotten. And as it was constructed on the geometrical figure of the dodecahedron, the first begotten was pleased to employ 12,000 years in its creation. The latter number is the expressed in the Tyrian cosmology, which shows man created in the 6th millennium. This agrees with the Egyptian theory of 6,000 years and with the Hebrew computation, but it is the esoteric form of it. The secret computation explains that the 12,000 and the 6,000 years are the years of Brahma, one day of Brahma being equal to 4,320,000. I am dyslexic, guys, so you have to apologize. I'm like over this book. I love it, but I'm just over, my brain doesn't with it. And with all these words I can't pronounce or project. Declares that when the wind spirit became enamored of its principles, the chaos and intimate union took place with connection with called pathos, and from this sprung the seed of all. And the chaos knew not its own production, for it was senseless, but it's embraced with the wind that was generated mot, or the illus mud. From this proceeded the spores of creation and generation of the universe. Zeus Zen and the chaotic earth, Emitis, the water, his wives, Osiris and Isis, The former god also representing ether, the first emanations of supreme deity, Amun, the primeval source of light, the goddess earth and water, again, Mithras, the rock-born god, the symbol of the male mundane fire, or the personified primordial light, and Mithra, the fire goddess, at once his mother and his wife, the pure element of fire, the active or male principle, regarded as light and heat in conjunction with earth and water, or matter, fire, female or passive elements of cosmological evolution and generation. Mithras is the son of Bordi, the Persian mundane mountain from which he flashed out as a radiant ray of light. Brahma, the fire god, and his prolific consort in Hindu, Agni, the refulgent deity from whose body issued 1,000 streams of glory and 7 tongues of flame, in whose honor certain Brahmas preserve to his day a perpetual fire. Siva, personified by the mundane mountain of the Hindus, and Meru, those terrific fire gods who said in the legend to have descended from heaven like the Jewish Jehovah in a pillar of fire, and a dozen other archaic double-sex deities. Alali proclaimed their hidden meaning. And what could these dual myths mean by the psychochemical principle of primordial creation? The first evolution in its triple manifestation of spirit, force, and matter, the divine correlation at its starting point, allegoricized as the marriage of fire and water, products of electrifying spirit union, or the male active principle with the female passive element, which become the parents of their Tellurian child. My brain is not working today, guys. I'm so sorry. Cosmic matter, the prima materia, whose soul is ether and whose shadow is the astral light. The fragments of the system that have now reached are rejected as absurd fables. Nevertheless, occult science, having survived even the great flood that submerged the antediluvian giants, and with them their very memories, save in the secret doctrine, the Bible and other scriptures, still hold the key to the world's problems. Let us apply the key to the rare fragments of long-forgotten cosmogonies and try by their scattered parts to reestablish the one universal cosmogony of the secret doctrine. The key fits them all. No one can study ancient philosophies seriously without perceiving the strikingly similitude of conception between all in their esoteric form, very often in their hidden spirit, invariably in the result of no mere coincidence, but of the concurrent design, and that there was during the youth of mankind one language, one knowledge, one universal religion, when there were no churches, no creeds or sects, but when every man was a priest unto himself. And if it is shown that already in those ages, which are shut out from our sight by the exuberant growth of tradition, human religious thought development, and uniform sympathy in every portion of the globe, then it become evident that born under whatever latitude, in the cold north or the burning south, in the east or west, that thought was inspired by the same revelations, and man was nurtured under the protecting shadow of the same tree of knowledge. I'm going to leave it there, my friends. The next one is chaos, theos, and cosmos. I'm sunburned too. Fun times. And then that's the next read for the next video for the Hermit's Journey. So I hoped you all stayed through. This is probably, I'm going to rate myself and be like pretty honest. This was a really sucky read for me. Don't know why my brain was not functioning properly. Very frustrating. I hope you got something out of this. I do apologize. It's unlike me, but then it can only get better. We're all a human. We all have flaws. We all have little things. And mine's projection and pronunciations of words in other languages. And even in English. Gotta love dyslexia sometimes. So, sending each and every one of you love and light, protection and shielding. Co-host. I don't know if you're going to be able to see her. Yeah. She's like right here. Come here. Want to say goodbye to everybody? Oh, you see her tail? Want to say goodbye to everybody, co-host? Come here. Morgan Cat says bye to everybody. My little baby's going to be 18 on Sunday too, which is my birthday, her birthday. We share birthdays. So she says bye. Come here. She's like, no, I don't want nothing to do with it. So guys, until next time, please enjoy. I know that was rough. It was rough on me, but worth putting out anyway, regardless. Can always do better. And yeah, hope to see you on the next one. Bye, guys.